Welcome to the Yamaha MT-09 Y-AMT, the Yamaha automated manual transmission. We're on the launch out in Spain. There's a bit of sky there that I can see, but other than that it looks pretty overcast and the forecast is rain. We're going to be testing out the system which has the switchgear and your gears on the left side. There's no clutch and there's no gears on your left peg. Yamaha basically said it's going to be a high-tech solution that really helps you as a rider to focus on the road and focus on the enjoyment of the ride. And you can put it in D or D plus for your average riding, or you can stick it into manual mode as well. So when you get onto the sporty roads, maybe switch into manual transmission, and then when you're just cruising along, stick it in automatic. The system itself seems pretty advanced, and it's going to be the first of many renditions, and I think we're now getting ready to go. So let's jump on the bike. So this is the MT-09, it's a 2024 model, but this one has the YAMT system on it. And then you've got the switchgear on the left, which has the gears. So you've got up and down, and you've got no clutch. So basically, you set off in automatic mode and you smoothly roll away. It's all in the throttle. You click into first gear and you just smoothly pull away. It's very easy to use. You might, of course, have used maybe the Honda DCT. You might have used the Honda automated E-clutch. And I haven't used the E-clutch actually, but the DCT, it feels kind of similar. But I was really surprised at just how intuitive it is to use and how you jump on the bike and you just go away. Price for this one, it's only £550 more than the standard MT-09, and that gets you, of course, the keyless ignition, and it gets you the system, which is basically automatic or manual transmission. So the total price for this one here, as it is in front of me, is £10,656. Of course, without, it's like £10,100. Now, instantly jumping onto this bike when we rolled away from this very spot, I pulled away in first and it was nice and smooth. The gears click in 0.1 of a second. And we saw last night at the presentation, there was an exposed engine in a casing. Basically showed off the system, and it showed how quickly and rapidly it changes gears. And this is basically in automatic mode. But what I found also is when you're on some of the twisty roads, when you want to hang on to a gear and when you want to be really in command, quick flick of the right index finger, put it into manual mode, then you can change into street, sport, rain, custom modes as you would anyway on the MT-09. But then all of the power is in your left hand, so you can go up or down the gears, and it's so seamless and quick. I had no issues with the gears at all today. Instantly flicking into, say, third gear, down into second, and maybe you're in fifth gear, you're coming up to a sharper bend, you click down a few gears into second, get some of that engine braking, hold second. And of course the MT-09 is a perfect bike for this because it's got so much character. The engine, the CP3, is phenomenal. It's one of the best engines I've ever ridden as the triple. And ultimately, that manual transmission mode just allows you to enjoy the road as it is. Yamaha said in the presentation last night that having the bar mounted gears allows your fingers with the dexterity to worry about the gears rather than your foot. And I was thinking, but there's nothing wrong with using your foot. You've got the 3rd gen quick shifter built in. That's fine on the Tracer 9 GT Plus. That works blindingly well. So why would you need it? But then I sort of got into the ride, and when we started getting to the really twisty bits of the road, it made a lot of sense because I could ride in automatic mode, flick into manual transmission instantly, and then just enjoy the road. And the way the gear selector is positioned, you still have a good grip of the bar. And I found myself actually riding as if I was going to change gear the whole time, but just not. And it had a good control of the bike, and it felt so fluid and so natural instantly. And that's something that Yamaha wanted to just see how people get on with, is how intuitive is the system. Do you jump on the bike and you just suddenly figure it out and it's instantly familiar to you? And of course it takes a little bit of time getting used to the low speed stuff, potentially. But once you're there and you're on the twisty roads, it just feels incredible. Now I will just quickly talk about the automatic mode because of course I set off and I was wanting to test that out. You've got D and D plus to select from. Right, so I'm setting off in D, or D plus actually, sorry. And I'm just going to continue riding in D plus because I like it. I think it's really nice. You can still prompt the gears. I'm going to have to take it very steady here because there's cold tyres. So it's going to be a very gentle beginning.
But ultimately, I'm very impressed with the technology here. You get to enjoy the bike and it doesn't feel like it's too intrusive. Sometimes mid-corner you want a little bit more engine braking, so you perhaps want to shift down, but you can do that yourself. Like here it's in third, I would potentially be in second here. So down into second I go. It's 0.1 of a second to change this. And it's just then shifted up into third again. So, you know, here, you're sort of, in a way, again, into third. You're kind of having to learn how the system wants to operate. And it's all on the throttle position and your speed. There's no integration with the 6-axis IMU at all. And I just checked with the Yamaha guys on our little coffee stop there to say, you know, how does the bike determine what gear it wants to be in? And the fella said, oh, it's just purely on the throttle position and your speed. So if you sit here with a slightly open throttle, it will assume that you're just cruising. So it doesn't know that you're mid-corner or anything like that. So that's where you have to be quite vocal to the bike with your throttle input. So here, if I'm holding the throttle open a little bit, because my speed isn't going up, it's not shifting up. But in D+, it's a slight bit more sporty. It doesn't feel too different to normal D, but it does hang on to the gears a little bit. Oh, look at that cloud rolling in. So what I'm going to do here now is close the throttle and shift into street mode, which is the manual mode. So now all of the gears are in my hands, literally. So if I just sit in third, it will just sit in third. And it's only a quick adjustment needed. God, this weather is not looking fun.
And I found that automatic mode works really nicely and really smoothly and well. And if you put it into D+, it will hang on to a gear a little bit longer. But it doesn't come without its drawbacks and its sort of negative sides. And they're only tiny little negative sides. So the first of that was, if you're rolling around a corner and you've got a tiny bit of throttle, 10, 20% of throttle, just to keep your momentum and your speed for a steady corner, the bike will assume that you're just cruising and you're comfortably just rolling in a straight bit of road. So then it will shift up mid-corner. Now, as I say, 0.1 of a second to shift from maybe second into third, it's not a big deal. But sometimes you want to have a bit of engine braking, or you want to have that control. And in automatic mode or D+ mode or D mode, that's where you start to think, oh, actually the bike is still trying to do what it wants to do. Of course, the MT-09 has a 6-axis IMU and it is phenomenal, but the automatic gearbox and the YAMT system doesn't interact with that 6-axis IMU that the MT-09 has. So that means that when you're mid-corner, it doesn't know that you're cornering. So that means basically you just put it into manual mode. If you're, you know, cruising on a straight bit of road and then suddenly you see a nice little twisty section coming up, you can just quite easily roll off the throttle, click it into manual, go back on the throttle in half a second and hold onto the gears and be fully in control. And once you get used to that, that's fine. One of the other problems that I sort of encountered was when you're, say, in 5th gear and you roll on the power, it doesn't automatically click down a gear and you have to do that yourself. Again, not a huge issue really. I mean, it could be so much worse, but you just click down a couple of gears and you're sorted. But that does mean if you're in, say, 5th gear and you want that instant burst of power, you do have to actively do that. It's important to know that this system isn't like intelligent. It's not an AI system that scans the road ahead. It doesn't take that control out of you as the rider. You still need to be switched on enough to see, okay, well, the road's going to start getting twisty here and I want to be in control of the bike. So then you switch into manual mode. Then you can go back into automatic mode if you need to. But that's something you have to be aware of. It's an intelligent system, but it's not intelligent enough to, say, link with the 6-axis IMU, and it doesn't know what's coming up. You're still in control as a rider. Now, another negative-ish point is that you have to roll off to change the automatic to manual or to change the mode. So if you're in manual mode, you have to roll off, turn into manual, and then roll back on the power maybe, but then again, roll off to turn the modes. You can't do that whilst you're moving, and you can't pre-select it to then roll off to roll back on. You have to do it all whilst rolled off. Again, not a huge issue, but if you could iron those problems out, well, problems, then it would be just so sublime. Now, the next point I want to talk about here is is this going to be the way forward? Is this going to be the future of motorcycling? And are Yamaha going to put this on all of their motorcycles? So they are going to be trialling it, of course, on the MT-09 first, and they have quite clearly said that this is going to then be on models in the future. So maybe the Tracer 9 GT, maybe they're going to put it on maybe some MTs like the 07, maybe lower in the range, maybe it's going to end up on a 125. But this is going to be one that Yamaha are quite interested to see the feedback on. Now these bikes are going to be in dealerships, as far as I'm aware, instantly. So you can jump into a Yamaha dealer, have a go on it yourself to figure out what you think of the bike, and from there, basically let Yamaha know maybe on social media what you think, or in the comments down below what you think about the bike. But in any case, this is going to be something that they're introducing as an option. And this is quite key to say, because the MT-09 as it is still going to be available as the MT-09. You don't have to go for the YAMT option. It's just going to be something that is there to accentuate and help you ride with the bike in a different way.
You do have a bit of a bite point to the throttle, where of course in a traditional bike you use the clutch, but there's no clutch here. It's smooth, it doesn't come on too soon, but it's just those really tight corners that you can sort of catch yourself out a little bit, and I've had to stick out a long leg to just keep myself nice and steady. You can of course drag some of the rear brake and use some of the throttle,
and that is something that I really found that it was brilliant fun today. You know, we had probably one of the best ride routes that I've ever had on a road launch, because it was so varied and there was so many switchback corners and so much flowing road. And the gearbox helped that. The gearbox allowed me to still be in control, flick it into automatic when we just had some cruising bits and some calm road riding, but then flick it into manual mode when it got a little bit more intense and a little bit more fun. I mean, when you flick into manual mode, it's always in street. It would be nice if it remembered what you're in, but when you turn the bike off and back on, it remembers if you're in manual or automatic, so you can then just set off. When you switch the bike off, if you leave it in gear, it won't roll away, it will just stay in gear. They've adjusted the gearbox so that it's now neutral 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And if you leave it in gear, it won't roll off down the hill. So there's no handbrake to apply, which is something that other motorcycle manufacturers have had to then put a handbrake on to make sure that the bike doesn't roll away because you can't leave it in gear. Ultimately, as I say, this bike has been fantastic fun. I'd be very curious to know what your thoughts are. So let me know down below in the comments what you think about the YAMT system and if it's something that you'd go for. Until then, this has been an absolutely exceptional bike. This isn't a review of the MT-09 even. Maybe I'll do that as an additional video. So again, let me know if you want me to basically explain my thoughts on the MT-09 in a next video. But I think this is well worth a go, well worth a consideration if you're looking at Yamaha, because it really accentuated the ride and it just worked so nicely. And yes, by the way, you can still wheelie in it. You can still do it. You put it in manual mode and just have to yank it up in third or second gear. No, loads of torque, of course, it's an MT, and it does it. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe to Bike Matters to stay up to date with all of our antics. Got loads on the way. Getting into launch season now, so there's probably going to be a lot of launches on the way. But in any case, thank you very much for watching. Ciao, and I'll see you on the next one.